Alright, so this is going to be a tutorial for showing you how to install Lieutenant. Lieutenant is a web app for tracking ideally any piece of information over time to hopefully glean useful information or patterns. Pattern recognition has not been implemented yet, but the basic CRUD, create, read, update, and delete features should be implemented. So we're going to follow this install tutorial and hopefully everything will go swimmingly. This tutorial might also be useful for really getting or installing any Django application up and running, and of course we are using Postgres as the back end. I'm using just password as the password since you will be seeing that text later on in the tutorial. And now we are creating the actual database. Alright. We are going to actually create a dedicated user for hosting the web application. And in case you have multiple Django applications running, we will just create a general web apps group. Alright, we need to install pip, which makes life very easy when working with Python. And that is already installed. And then we are going to use pip to install these very handy virtualenv and virtualenv wrapper packages. And we're installing this globally because these packages are actually useful whenever you're using Python, not just in our Django app environment. And those are already installed. Alright, so we've already created our user. Now we need to, if we look in home, all that's there is my current user, so we need to create the home directory for the user that we just created. And if we look at those permissions, it's owned by root right now, so we are going to make Lieutenant the owner. Okay. So now we are acting as the Lieutenant user. We are in our home directory already. we are going to source this file and then make a virtual environment for Lieutenant. And so what that did is create this hidden virtual envs directory as well as the Lieutenant environment. Alright, then we are going to install some additional dependencies that are required. Actually, since this is a restricted user, we will do that as my admin user. These will come in useful later when we actually install the dependencies for Django once we download the repo. And then we will go ahead and install our web server and supervisor. Now that that's done, we will clone our repo again. So right now there's nothing in our directory other than those hidden folders. And we will cd into that cloned repo. Now work on, because I exited this, we need that virtual env wrapper script. So that's where this work on command. And so now you can see that this tells us that we're working in the Lieutenant virtual environment. So now with that, we will use pip to install our requirements. This is one of the beautiful things about pip and storing the requirements or our dependencies in a requirements.txt file within our Git repo. Saves a lot of hassle. That's done. And just to show you what's in the requirements, basically that's all it is. It's a text file with the versions and the packages that we need to install. Alright, so now we will cd into another Lieutenant directory, but this is the actual source code for the web app. And so in here we can see we have this manage.py, which comes with Django when you create a project, and we will create the tables. And there is an issue. No password supplied. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So we need to so just kind of run through this. If we look in the the project settings, down here you can see that we use a default blank password, but we look for this Lieutenant DB password environment variable. So if we export that, and since we use password when we set the database up, now when we try to migrate, it will look in their environment variable. And so there you go, runs through all the migrations. Okay, now since we don't have root privs on Lieutenant, we will create these symlinks and directory for the logs in case it doesn't exist, which it already does, so we don't need to do that. Alright, so rather than typing all this stuff out, I will... ah, dang. Failed to create. Failed to create symbolic link. Don't know why that is failing. Because that exists. Home, Lieutenant bin post activate. Home, Lieutenant virtual Lieutenant bin. Ew. Okay. So we will... Alright, that's empty anyway, so what we can do is simply force that. So now if we tree that, now it's actually pointing to it. Alright, so post deactivate, we need pre, and that also exists. Let's just cat to make sure that that's not doing anything. Nope. Ah, mother of God. Oh. Force. Okay. Just to make sure. Alright, so now that those are all set up, we will create that, and just before I actually press enter, see a before and after. This is for Nginx. So that's what's there right now. And after. Now we're pointing to that. And then enable the site. Okay, so we need to actually specify that. I'll force that tree. Or maybe that's not the problem. So that's trying to point to X. Oh. Alright, we don't need that, but we do need the proper location. There. Now it's working. And again, to show you supervisor, that's what exists. And now that exists. Alright, so now we should only need to update or tell supervisor to reread that config. Now it knows that lieutenant's available. Update it and start. Oh, it's already started, probably when we did the update. So if we do supervisor, oh, okay, so that's just telling us that supervisor is running, but that's not actually what's running our server. The server is actually being run by Unicorn. And here we go. So we have the master and then 3 worker processes. And so now if we, so engine X is not started yet, as far as I know. Yeah, so if we tried to go to localhost, that's what we get. So if we do, now that we created those symlinks and restart it, it'll reread that config. Refresh this. Alright, so we can actually see that we are getting served the Django web pages. And this is giving us an error saying that no password is supplied. I know that this is due to the database password not being supplied, but I can't remember if there's a way to tell that off the bat. So you might have to just take my word for it. Oh, yeah, we can tell that it's database by looking at this. Because this is the Postgres package. Okay, so in order to fix this issue, we need to basically set up the environment, and that's what the post activate scripts are for. So we just have to modify the post activate script with the password that we set. So now when supervisor restarts the process, it'll have that environment variable configured. So now what we need to do is restart Lieutenant. And there we go. Now we're being served the actual web page. Alright, so, but you'll see that there's no CSS being applied. So, in order to fix that, we need to cd into where the manage.py is and issue the collect static command. Before I do that, I will just show you, based on this setting, the static root, this is where collect static will place all the static assets. So if we actually look in home, right now we just have those 2 directories, And if we do that, we have to work on, and we actually, in order to use work on, we have to, oops, work on, Lieutenant. Alright, now issue that, and confirm that we want to place it in that location. And now if we look in, now we have the static. And if we refresh, now we're getting this. So that is the tutorial for installing Lieutenant, just to get it up and running. There will be a later tutorial, a separate one, to go over the features of Lieutenant.